Let's get Labour's view on everything that we've been discussing so far. Barry Gardiner, the MP for Brent North since 1997, joins me now. Sorry, does that make
you
old,
make me
Barry?
very old, yes.
My goodness me. Well, it's a tribute to your wisdom and experience
Indeed.
on such matters.
Indeed.
Let's kick off with the banking farrago, as I'm calling it, with Nigel Farage. I'm a bit confused by Labour's position, because we've had Rachel Reeves on one hand saying, oh, the press are bullying Dame Alison Rose out of her job as NatWest CEO. I think Starmer seems to be supportive of Farage's quest to try and find out what's going on. He's come on the show this morning and says that he thinks 1,000 bank accounts a day are being closed down. I mean, I'd imagine as a long-standing Labour MP, that makes you pretty uncomfortable.
Look, make the most of this, Camilla,
yes.
Because one time only, you will hear me being supportive of Nigel Farage, OK?
Great to hear. Arch Remainer Barry Gardiner, make a note of this.
Not on Brexit, right? But no, look, banking is something that is vital to everybody's life in the UK.
Yeah.
And if it can be arbitrarily taken away from you, that is not right. And I think what happened to Nigel Farage was wrong. And I think what's going on underneath that in terms of the way in which banks treat their customers really does need investigated. I want to put a proviso to that. And that is that we in London have unfortunately become a centre for money laundering.
Yeah.
And we know that. It's come from Russia, it's come from a lot of places, and you only have to look at the number of very plush apartments, you know, in Kensington, South Kensington area, that there are no lights on in the evening to know that it's money laundering that is funding those as an investment for the future, right? We need to deal with money laundering, but the way in which the banks are doing this is actually victimising ordinary people. So I think we do need an investigation.
It does need to be sorted out. It was Alison Rose that was being victimised. She made a mistake on that.
It's for you to ask Rachel about her own
We would love
view.
to have Rachel Reeves on this show.
Well,
she isn't as open to doing GB News as you are, Barry.
Well, I've always believed that, you know, the people that you need to talk to are the people who are less likely to vote for you, because that way I can persuade your audience to come and vote for me.
Barry Gardiner, amen to that. Now, let's talk about voters and what they think of ULEZ. I'm particularly interested in your view, because I know your constituency of Brent North is kind of on the border of the extension, so people are going to be driving out of their homes in Brent North straight into a 1250 charge. Are you a supporter or not?
They already do, because they cross the North Circular. But look, I'm a huge supporter of ULEZ.
Really?
And yes, absolutely. I'm a huge supporter of the ULEZ for a very good reason. This is a public health issue. And, you know, whether it's ULEZ, whether it's climate change, the question you've got to ask yourself is, how much are you prepared to steal from your own children? Because that's what's going on. If you have a child that grows up within 100 metres of a main polluting road, that's 10,000 vehicle movements a day, that child grows up with a lung capacity impaired by up to 1/3. Now, if you're prepared to do that to your children, fine. Back the campaign against the ULEZ.
Anyway, if we've got a ban on new petrol and diesels, and we're all persuaded
that's
to
2030,
yeah,
Camilla,
only
and it's
7 years.
new.
It's
and
only
it,
7 years.
No,
Barry.
but it's new petrol and diesel vehicles.
What about your constituents? Aren't they worried about being multiply taxed? You know, you've got the motorists being taxed when they buy their petrol, when they're actually taxed. Obviously, they pay money for their tax disc. They're being taxed perhaps secondarily because they might have to get a residence parking permit. They then drive through an LTN and they get fined, they get taxed. They go to the centre of London, they have to pay a congestion charge, they get taxed. Now it's going to be extended so that you're basically paying an extra tax just to get around Greater London. I mean, there is a very strong argument to suggest that this is making the poor poorer. And as a Labour MP, I didn't think you'd be happy with that.
Camilla, who has caused the cost of living crisis? Liz Truss. Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, £40 billion off our economy. Who promised who promised
But that's not got anything to do with ULEZ, though, because Sadiq Khan came up with this ages ago.
Sorry, Sadiq Khan came up with it. You yourself said earlier on the programme... Yeah, you yourself... Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because it was Boris that initiated the ULEZ, as you well know. And actually... Yes, I do.
Okay.
I support that. But hang on. No. Let's go back to Grant Shapps, because you know very well that in the negotiations at the time of COVID, the negotiations with TfL, it was Grant Shapps who insisted that it was an obligation on TfL to expand the ULEZ. Okay. Now, the government believes that this is the right thing to do. They believe that it's right to support scrappage schemes, because they're giving £230 million to Birmingham, to Bristol, to Oxford for their scrappage schemes. What they're not doing is giving a penny piece to Londoners. Now, so I've got a question for the government, and that's why are you not giving...
And up to £9,500 for vans. I looked it up last week.
Yeah.
So are you saying that there should be more money for the scrappage scheme?
What I'm saying, there should be more people who are eligible for it, precisely in the way that you're suggesting.
This is Angela Rayner's concern.
Precisely what you're saying.
It unaffordable. She said it's not affordable for Londoners. And I think that was echoed by Wes Streeting.
Well, I'm sorry. Let's be absolutely clear. The government could give the money to London that they have given elsewhere. The reason that they have not done so is they wanted to use the ULEZ as a political stick to beat the mayor with, the London mayor with.
I mean, politically that's kind of worked, hasn't it? Because would you agree that Uxbridge was retained by the Tories on the back of the backlash against the ULEZ?
Well, you see, I would have liked us to have been much firmer in our support of ULEZ in Uxbridge.
But you're not saying that Khan is doing this against his will. He wants to expand it.
It's the right thing to do. I absolutely believe that this is about public health. Don't take the politicians' word for it. Listen to what the British Heart and Lung Foundation are saying. Listen to what all the doctors are saying. Listen to what the medical experts are saying. They say it's 4,500 deaths a year that are caused prematurely by air pollution, and it can be solved by ULEZ. Now, that's important because it's our children's future that we're talking about.
But you've said this week that you, repeating actually those words just that you've said here about the playing of party political games, and you've said that we should mobilise on a footing to combat rising global temperatures.
Yes.
So do you think that Starmer should be more stridently in support of the ULEZ, because he's prevaricated on it since Uxbridge? He doesn't seem to think it's a good idea for Khan to be pursuing it because he thinks it's going to lose him votes in the capital.
I don't think that's quite what Keir said. I think he's asked Sadiq to reflect and to listen, right? Now, I'm not going to get into a spat with a party leader, my party leader, who actually supports the ULEZ, wants it to be introduced in a way that people can manage. We all want that because we want to take the public with us.
Maybe that
and it's really important.
Down,
well, maybe what needs to happen is the government needs to put the money into London that it's put into the rest of the country for ULEZ to make sure that it can come down. There, you and I might have a point of agreement.
Do you know what? You've already agreed with Nigel Farage. If we have a point of agreement...
You're ruining my
Barry
reputation.
Gardiner, what is happening to you? This is the GB News effect, you see. Thank you very much for, as ever, for coming on in such good humour, but also I think, you know, you've given a robust defence of that policy, and as you say, when you're talking about children's lives, it does give the other perspective, even though politically this seems to be a bit of a hot potato. Thank you very much for joining me this morning, Barry Gardiner.